notice, and this is a typical copyright. We continue with the mathematics syllabus, CSEC 2018 to 2027. These are the 9 sections that the syllabus is divided into. Just a reminder that the examination paper, you have 3 papers. Paper 1, 60 multiple choice questions. Paper 2, an assortment of structured questions. And then there is paper 3, SBA, for school candidates, or an alternative to SBA, which is a written paper for private candidates. In all papers of the exam, a formula sheet will be provided. Also, silent electronic non-programmable calculators are permitted in papers 2 and 3, but not paper 1. So I am reminding us again that presents you with one caveat, and that is that you will need to know the times tables if you don't know them already from 2 to 12. Just an emphasis that you need to know these tables. Schedule of videos. In September of 2024, that is this month, I hope to have the 32 videos from section 1, number theory and computation, published on YouTube. Then by October 2024, consumer arithmetic. November 2024, sets. Measurement in December 2024, that's to the end of the year. Beginning the new year, 2025, January, statistics. Then algebra in February 2025. March 2025, relations, functions, and graphs. April 2025, geometry and trigonometry. And finally, May 2025, hopefully by mid-May, vectors and matrices. Just a reminder that I have subdivided section 1 into 32 videos, all of which will be made available on YouTube in their entirety. This section forms the foundation on which the rest of the syllabus is based. How well you can handle this section, that is section 1, will predict how well you will do with the rest of the syllabus. These 32 videos from section 1 cover the math schoolwork up to the end of Form 3, grade 9, that is to say from Form 1 to Form 3. So far, we have covered these 16 videos from this list here, this partial list, and we are now at video 19, Objective 8, convert from one set of units to another. And there are 3 things here CXC specifies, CSEC: use of conversion scales, converting within the metric scales, the 12-hour and the 24-hour clock. So I have divided this objective into 3 videos. The first one, which is the easiest, is conversion between 12 and 24 hours clocks. And then secondly, conversion within the metric system. And video 3, conversion using conversion scales. So we are here, conversion between 12 and 24 hours clocks. First thing you may be thinking, who needs this? With the modern technology that we have, that can be easily done. Most of you may have a complex digital watch that can be set to either one, 12 or 24 hours. For example, this watch over here, which can do more than just tell time, is a physical fitness watch, but you can see up here 0940, the time, or there are phones, even the cheaper ones. This one here, it says 4:13. We are not too sure if that is in the morning or in the afternoon. And here, this one says 14:56. And we know definitely that this one over here is set to 24-hour, and that is certainly in the afternoon, after 12. This one here, we need further information to say whether it is early morning or in the afternoon. So as I said, the first thing you may be wondering is who needs this? We all, in order to clearly understand one another in both time and space. For example, in the New Testament book of Mark, chapter 15, we have this verse. And it was the third hour, and they crucified him. From Young's literal translation. We may wonder what is meant by third hour. And continuing in that same chapter, verse 33, it says, and the 6th hour having come, darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour. So we're not even dealing here with our conventional AM and PM. This is, of course, talking about the crucifixion and death of Jesus, and the next chapter deals with his resurrection. So the third hour here is actually 9 a.m. And the 6th hour here is actually noon, midday, the 6th hour. And 9th hour is 3 p.m. Now that you know that, it makes sense. One other translation, the contemporary English version, says, about noon the sky turned dark and stayed that way until around 3 o'clock. Now, if from noon to 3 o'clock, we know that must be 3 p.m. So we need to learn about this conversion from 12 hours and 24 hours to make sure that we can understand one another clearly. Your syllabus lists 2 examples, 2 for the 12-hour and their counterpart for the 24-hour. So 5 a.m. is the 12-hour system, and the counterpart to that in 24 is 0500 hour. And 1:15 p.m. is the 12-hour system, and the counterpart to that is 13:15 hours. Note that this 24-hour system is written with 4 digits, 2 digits for the hour, followed by a colon, and then 2 digits for the minutes. So the regular AM and PM is applicable to the 12-hour system. For the 24-hour system, there is no AM and PM. The 24 hours cover the complete day. Note that this format that you see here, with the colon and the H, is required by CSEC. Now there is another 24-hour system called military time. So we are not going to confuse the military time with the time that CXC requires that we learn. Typical 12-hour clock you see here. What is the time shown here? 10:10. But is that in the morning, a little less than 2 hours before midday? Or is that 10:10 in the night, a little less than 2 hours before midnight? Now, you cannot say unless you have further information. For example, if it is between midnight and midday, it is designated as AM. And if it is between midday and midnight, it is designated as PM. So AM is the abbreviation for the Latin phrase ante meridiem, which means before noon or before midday. And then, of course, PM is the abbreviation for the Latin phrase post meridiem, which means afternoon or after midday. So the typical 24-hour clock looks like this. The time shown here is 20:10 hours. That is to say, 10 minutes past the 20th hour, according to the 24-hour system. On the 12-hour clock, that will be 8:10 p.m. So we have to learn how to convert from one to the other. Now, to make the 24-hour clock a little more meaningful, we can think of a day as being divided into 4 6-hour segments. 4 6-hour segments. So you have one segment here, which is from midnight to 6 in the morning, like sunrise. And then you have another section here, which is from sunrise to midday. So 6 in the early morning to midday. And you could think of a third section here, or third quarter of the day, from midday to about 6 sunset or thereabouts. And then the fourth quarter from about sunset to midnight. Now, in some cultures, for this example, the Spanish tradition has this morning time here. And to specify, they would say de la mañana. That's from sunrise to midday. And then after midday, over here, they would say de la tarde, meaning in the afternoon. And from sunset to midnight, they would say de la noche. And then from midnight to about sunrise, it will be de la madrugada, early morning. But the 24-hour system don't have that, and the AM and PM system don't have that. Now you can see a clock here that has both the 12-hour system and the 24-hour system. In this clock, this is a minute hand, and one rotation covers 60 minutes, whether you are reading 24-hour or 12-hour. In the 12-hour clock, one rotation of the hour hand is 12 hours. So the time on this clock that you see here is actually 1:50, and the only reason we know PM is because of the 24-hour clock. So the 12-hour clock, this is the hour hand, and that is the minute hand. That is for the 12-hour clock. For the 24-hour clock, this red one here is the hour hand, and that white one there is still the minute hand. In this case, this red one would make one rotation when that white hour hand would make 2 rotations. So when we look at the red one, we could see that it is almost 14:00 hour. Actually, it's 13:50 hours. Almost 14:00 hour. And it is because of this other clock here, the 24-hour clock, that we know that the 12-hour clock here is actually 1:50 p.m. If you find this video useful and interesting, please like and share. Like and share. You may even consider subscribing to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and it means a lot to me. So we will look at these two clocks side by side and compare some of the times. The 12-hour clock is on the left-hand side. The 24-hour clock, as you can see, is on the right-hand side. Now, that time there on the 12-hour clock is 1 a.m. I will specify that it is a.m. On the 24-hour clock, that 1 a.m. will look like this. The hour hand will be pointing to 1, just like the hour hand over here is pointing to 1. And the minute hand is pointing to 0. However, it is written like this: 0100 hour. You're writing in 4 digits. You must specify 4 digits and you must say the 4 digits. Next one, 3 a.m. on the 12-hour clock, on this clock here, 3 a.m. This one here, the 24-hour clock, follows a similar pattern, but the 3 is here, not as far as it is on this one. And of course, the minute hand is there. So that's 0300 hour, written like that. 4:30 a.m. on the 12-hour clock. This is like early morning, just before sunrise, a little before sunrise. On this clock on the right, it is written as 0430 or 0430 hour. So you can see that it is halfway between 4 and 5, and the minute hand is at 30. 8:15 a.m. on the 12-hour clock. On the 24-hour clock, it is 08:15 hour. So this is what it looks like here. So far, doesn't look too bad. There's not much difference between the 12-hour clock and the 24-hour clock, except the way it is written. Then we come to 11:40 a.m. on the 12-hour clock. On the 24-hour clock, it is 11:40 hour. Not much difference in terms of what you say and what you write. Now we come to 12 noon on the 12-hour clock, and that is 12:00 hour on the 24-hour clock. As we pass the midday hour somewhat, say 12:50 p.m., 12:50 p.m., that's 10 minutes to 1, on the 12-hour clock, on the 12-hour clock here. On this clock, you can see that it is 10 minutes to this 13 here, but we haven't reached that 13 yet. So we are still saying 12:50 hours. So far, so good. Now we come to 1 p.m. on the 12-hour clock. On the 24-hour clock, look what happens over here. The hour hand is pointing to 13, the minute hand is pointing to 60, and that becomes 13:00 hour. From now on, until near midnight, we will have one major change. Over here, 2:25 p.m., that's a 12-hour clock. On the 24-hour clock, it is 14:25 hour. So remember, this clock had already gone through one 12-hour. We are going now on the second 12-hour, which means that once it passed 1 o'clock on the 12-hour clock, we will add 12. We will add 12 to this to give us the 24-hour clock. So 2:25 p.m. is 14:25 hours. This is 5:50 p.m., 10 minutes to 6. This is 17:50 hours. So we add 12 to that 5. Next one, 6 p.m. on the 12-hour clock. On the 24-hour clock, it is 1800 hours. We add 12 to the 12-hour clock. Because, as I said, this 12-hour clock already went through one 12-hour, and it's now on the second 12-hour. So that is how we end up with 1800 hours. That's 6 o'clock, about sunset. In the night now, 8:30 p.m., which looks like this on the 12-hour clock. On the 24-hour clock, it is somewhere between there, between 20 and 21. And here is the 30 minutes. So that is 20:30 hours, 10:45 p.m., going on to midnight. That is what the 12-hour clock will say. The 24-hour clock will say, when we add 12 to that 10, 22:45 hours. 11:55 p.m. on the 12-hour clock. That's 5 minutes to midnight. On the 24-hour clock, if we add 12 to this 11, we will get 23. The minutes remain the same, 55 hours. 12 midnight on the 12-hour clock looks like this. And of course, it looks very similar to that on the 24-hour clock. But look at the reading here, 0000 hour. Now, if you go past midnight, 12:15 a.m., that is on this clock here, 12:15 a.m. On the 24-hour clock, if you add 12 to 12, you will get 24, but you don't write 24. You write 0015 hours. So let's look at the conversion again between the 12-hour and the 24-hour clock. From 12:01 to 12:59 a.m., you replace the 12 with 00, and you replace the a.m. with h. For example, 12:25 a.m. becomes 0025 hour, and 12:55 a.m. becomes 0055 hour. That is between 12:01 to 12:59. 1 a.m. to 12:59 p.m. Use 2 digits for the hour and replace AM or PM with H. For example, 1:12 a.m. becomes 0112 or 0112 hour. 6:15 a.m. becomes 0615 hour, and 11:55 a.m. becomes 11:55 hours. So that is not too difficult. Make sure you have 2 digits for the hours and remove the AM or PM and replace it with hours. 12:20 p.m. becomes 12:20 hours. Between 1 p.m. to 11:59 p.m., you will add 12 to the hour from 1 p.m. and you will replace p.m. with hours, so that 1 p.m. becomes 13:00 hour, 2:10 p.m. becomes 14:10 hour, 9:35 p.m. we add 12 to that 9, becomes 21:35 hour, and 11:45 p.m., that's almost midnight, becomes 23:45 hours. Now 12 midnight is 0000 hour. So you have gone through the complete 24 hours. This can also be written as 24:00 hour. Note that this format here on the right, the 24-hour format, is uniform. You have 2 digits for the hour, colon, and then 2 digits for the minutes, followed by an H, meaning hour or hours. That way, you can minimize errors and minimize misunderstanding and misinterpretation. So how well did you learn? I have 10 examples here. In 5 of them, I have the 12-hour clock, and we want to know what the 24-hour clock would be for that. And in 5 others, we have the 24-hour clock, and we want to see what the 12-hour clock would be. So 10:30 a.m., this is morning time, before 12 o'clock. This one should be very easy. Not much to change. It is 10:30 hours. 11:16 hour. This is still in the morning before 12 o'clock. Not much to change there. 11:16 a.m. Third one, 5:15 p.m. Now this is past 12 o'clock. Almost going on to 6 o'clock. So it's really in the afternoon, evening. So we will have to add 12 to that 5, and we get 17:15 hours. This one here is 00:45 hour. This is somewhat just after midnight. So that will be 12:45 a.m. Next one, 6:25 a.m. That should be very easy. And so it is 06:25 hour. Remember to put a 0 here so that you have 2 digits for the hour. Next one, 14:30 hours. That means you have already passed midday. So we will subtract 12 from that 14, and we will get 2:30 p.m. 12:05 a.m., that's just after midnight. This 12 will become 00, and then the 05 hour. 00:00 hour, that's exactly 12 midnight. 8:25 p.m., that's past 6 o'clock in the night. So we will add 12 to that 8, and we will get 20:25 hours. And finally, 23:55 hours, that's almost midnight. A few minutes short of 12. So we will subtract 12 from that 23, and we get 11:55 p.m. So how well did you do? Note your weak points, weak areas, and try to get better at them. And that brings us to the end of video 1 of Objective 8 in Section 1.